Listen, my people, give me your ear. For God has given us a great gift. God has done a great wonder. And I was thinking about something that God has done in my life, but something that God does, and I was seeing things from another perspective. So I have been doing some woodworking, a little bit of craftsmanship with my son. We've been making a wooden sword just out of pine, so it's not any sort of hardwood. It's not something that's difficult to work with. And I've been seeing a lesson. There's a lesson that I'm seeing that God has been giving me. This lesson that I've been being given has been, I'll be going on working, trying to get everything measured up, lined up, straight, narrow, and all that. And I've been doing this with my son, and I see, he's getting distracted. He's, we're building this. He's really excited about it. He's like, oh, this is going to be cool. This is going to be awesome. So then we get everything lined up. I start, bring out the tape measure, the straight edge, all those things. And I'm like, how about you draw a line here, make a mark here, make a mark here. And, we draw out this wooden sword that's going to be his. And, we measure it up. And then as we get to the actual work, he starts getting distracted, and it requires actual work, because I told him we're going to make this with, the old-fashioned way. So with a hand saw, and we're going to hand sand it, and we're going to do these things, and we're not going to have these modern tools that kind of make things a little bit easier, make things get cut a little bit cleaner. We're going to make this in a way that does require extra effort, that requires work. And I started doing this because I wanted to teach him the value of things that require work, the simple things that do require work. And we've gotten it all cut up, we've got it all straightened, started to get straightened out, we're sanding it down. And throughout this whole process of having to saw it and, use the saw to cut the long way, and all these things, you start seeing him go off, and he's making these little things with the pieces of wood. He's making these little things off to the side. He's not really paying attention. But one of the things that I was doing, and one thing that I remember happening whenever I would do projects with my father, is while I got distracted, he kept on focusing on the work at hand. He kept focusing on the work that was in front of him and that needed to be done. And so what's being revealed to me through all this, what I've been seeing, is that while we, God's children, keep getting distracted from all this work, he's still focusing at the job at hand. He's still focusing at the task. And while we're off having fun, in life, partying, drinking, he's at work, and he's focusing. He's not getting distracted by these other things. And when we finally come to him, we're like, Dad, look at this cool thing I got. He sees it, he recognizes it, he looks at it, and he encourages us in the positives that is coming up. But then he says, why don't you come back over here? Why don't you come focus on the work at hand instead of being distracted? And that's what I kept finding myself doing, is like, hey, Bubba, come over here. I want you to hold this down. I want you to use this saw. And I taught him how to use a hand saw. And I was like, I want you to do these things, and really involving him in the work. And as he's doing it, he's like, oh, my arm's getting tired. Oh, my hand's getting tired. He's coming up with these valid excuses, but he's still coming up with these excuses as to why he can't continue on the work. And so when he finally stops doing it, that's when I would take over, and I would get a good large chunk of the work done. And I couldn't help but think, as God has been working in my life, how I come up with all of these excuses as to why I can't work on myself. I can't work within myself. Why I can't be more loving to that homeless guy that's constantly on the side of the street with torn up clothes. Why I can't be more loving to this guy at work that just frustrates me and drives me absolutely crazy. I think about myself in all of these different situations where I'm like, God, I can't do this. And then God comes in and he shows me how to do it. And he keeps calling me back to the work at hand. And so I just thought that was really, something that was really interesting, because while I like to look at myself and say, well, look, I've done so good for myself. I've made myself stronger. I've made myself better. I've done all these things to myself. When I say those things, I fail to recognize what our Father in heaven has been doing while I've been distracting myself with the things of this world. I fail to recognize that while I was off having fun, I was off ignoring him, I was off doing whatever I wanted to do instead of working on myself, instead of working on that perfect image of God, that perfect image of Christ, that he was working on me. He was working on me. He didn't stop. He didn't lose focus. He stayed focused because the task at hand is so big and so important. And the only way for me to value that is for me to work at it with him. But I got distracted and I'm still learning the lesson of value. I'm still learning these lessons because it is about the amount of work that's at hand, but it's also about seeing that after all said and done, how much work I did, and then seeing how much infinitely larger work he did in me. How much I actually needed him to do the work, because if it were up to me, if I was the one doing all this work, it would never get done. It would never get done. Or it'd be some half-built, halfway piece of thing that would be destroyed easily, would look like absolute garbage. And that's sort of the thing that I find it so interesting. I find it so awesome to see, but also it really convicts me. It convicts me so deeply because I recognize how terrible I've been to my God. I've recognized how terrible I've been to my Father in heaven, who is still currently working on me while I'm letting myself be distracted by the needs of my own flesh. When he says, trust only in me. Don't serve those other things. Don't be worried about your money. Don't be worried about what you're going to wear. Don't be worried about what you're going to eat. But I'm worried about all those things. And he's saying, son, stop. Look at me. Trust in me. And that's really what cuts to the core of all this. But I meant to get on, tell you a short story. I know it's taken a little bit longer than I would like to, but that lesson, that it really strikes hard. It really strikes my heart, and it teaches me a very valuable lesson while also convicting me in my failure to recognize really how amazing our God is. And our God is amazing. Please look for him, seek his kingdom, and seek him in your own life. You are loved. You are wanted. If anybody needs help, please reach out to your friends, family. Reach out to me if I'm the only one you feel safe doing that with. But no, you are loved. You are so loved. And God will never leave you, nor will he forsake you. Peace be with you all, and have a great night.